The desert had that kind of silence that feels like it's listening. Wind pushing against the cab, fine dust sifting through the vents. The world around me stretched so far, I could almost believe I was the last man left on it. I was parked under a flickering light at a rest stop somewhere off Highway 95 when the text came through. Your first drop coordinates have been approved. Payment pending confirmation. No company name, no signature. Just like last time. 2 weeks earlier, I'd been 3 months behind on truck payments, and one bad breakdown from living in this rig full time. Then, a man from a company called Interlink Logistics called out of nowhere. Said they needed a driver willing to handle off-grid government cargo. No logbooks, no way stations, no manifests to sign. They'd pay cash, half up front. The first run had gone smooth enough, just strange. They sent me to a fenced-off facility near Yuma. The gate hung open. Padlock snapped. The guard shack was empty except for a thermos and a single chair turned toward the desert. I dropped the crate where the GPS told me, right on a painted white X in the sand, and the second I climbed back into the cab, I got a message. Delivery confirmed. Payment processed. No signature, no receipt. Just that. I told myself it was some weird government contract thing. Maybe they were testing drone logistics or satellite tracking or who knows what. But the crate had been heavy, humming faintly, like there was a generator running inside. Now I was back at it again because the money cleared fast. 25 grand for another 5 stops. I told myself I'd make this last run and quit for good. The GPS led me east, away from the main highway, down a road that had no name on the map, just coordinates. The desert here looked wrong, flat in all directions, as if someone had pressed their palm into the earth and smoothed it. No birds, no insects. Not even power lines, though my radio still crackled with static. The first base appeared as a collection of gray shapes against the horizon, rusted hangars, collapsed fencing, and a single radio tower leaning like a dying tree. The sign out front read, Echo Valley Test Range, letters half buried in sand. The gate groaned when I pushed it. Inside the buildings were hollow, gutted, windows blown out, dust an inch thick on every surface. But near the center of the lot, a bright white X was painted on the concrete. Fresh. I backed the trailer over it and killed the engine. The air felt charged. You know that stillness before a thunderstorm? Like the world holds its breath? That. I walked around to the trailer door and pulled it open. The crate inside was sealed tight, just like last time, no labels except for the code ORION-09. It took all my strength to drag it onto the dolly and roll it to the X. The second I let go, a tone sounded behind me. I turned. One of the lights over the hangar door had come on. Then my phone buzzed. Delivery confirmed. Thank you for your service. I froze. I hadn't even sent a check-in message. I hadn't called anyone. When I turned back, the crate was gone. Just gone. The dolly sat empty. No tracks, no drag marks, no indentations in the dust. I thought maybe the heat was getting to me. Maybe I'd rolled it farther than I thought, but the X was clear and untouched. I backed out fast, heart pounding. Once I was in the cab, I glanced at the dash cam. The footage showed me unloading the crate, then glitching, freezing, and cutting to static. When the feed came back, the space on the X was empty. I drove until I saw pavement again, pulled over, took a long drink of water, and told myself I was done. But later that night, while I was parked at a motel lot outside Kingman, another message arrived. Next route available. Bonus approved for timely compliance. Below it, a line of coordinates stretched down the screen like a wound, and at the bottom, Project Orion. Do not deviate. The desert wind howled through the open window, carrying dust that smelled like old metal. Somewhere in the darkness beyond the headlights, I thought I saw movement, a shape just standing there, too tall, too still. When I blinked, it was gone. I closed the window, locked the door, and sat there listening to the engine tick. I told myself the money was worth it, that I was just tired, that sometimes places die loud and sometimes they die quiet. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I hadn't been the only one out there tonight. I told myself I'd sleep on it, but by morning, the bonus kept blinking in my head like a hazard light. 25 grand per run. 5 more stops. Then I'd quit. That was the lie I needed. The second base sat behind a ridge of red rock. A half-buried sign read, Sierra Ridge Instrumentation Center. The eagle seal was spray-painted over. The padlock on the gate looked new. I cut it, eased the rig through, and saw a white X painted on cracked concrete. Fresh, clean, wrong. The crate's label read Orion 12. It hummed faintly under my palm. I rolled it to the X and stepped back. A speaker somewhere in the hangar clicked alive. Drop confirmed. Thank you for your service. Then my phone buzzed with the same message. When I turned around, the crate was gone. No drag marks, no sound. Just there, then not. I left the dolly where it fell and drove until the base was a shimmer in the mirrors. The footage on the dash cam skipped, me unloading, then static, then nothing. The next stop, Haltau X Ira Strip, was worse. 2 rusted hangars, 1 runway cracked open like a dry riverbed. Inside, the air was heavy with ozone. A clipboard on the wall read, Interlink Logistics, Project Orion Receiving Officer, nay. Every box under Received was marked 0. I set Orion 07 down where the X overlapped old tire marks. The air grew cold. Lights flickered overhead. The intercom hissed. Drop confirmed. The crate vanished. My heart didn't even race anymore. It just sank. By the 4th base, Fort Cinder, I was running on caffeine and disbelief. The road into the compound passed berms and half-buried bunkers. The sign for the motor pool leaned at an angle. A red beacon blinked at the end of the path like a heartbeat. When I rolled Orion 14 to it, the ground hummed under my boots. A voice echoed from a bunker doorway, flat, male, too calm. Carrier acknowledged. I froze. The hall beyond was dark except for a soft light moving inside like phosphorescent water. Footprints led inward. None came back. When I looked down, the crate was gone again.
The 5th stop, Echo Valley Annex, was different. Clean, swept, almost maintained. Fluorescent bulbs hummed overhead. On a wall, a bulletin board held laminated notices marked, Orion Relay Operations, do not retain materials. A sticky note read, if it talks, it lies. In a break room, a TV played static. The fridge hummed. Inside sat 3 wrapped sandwiches. Fresh. The expiration date, 2 months past. I set Orion 19 down, waited. At 20 seconds, the intercom crackled. At 24, the crate vanished, and my phone buzzed with, route complete. Return to starting point. I found a clipboard near the dock, laminated and spotless. Carrier, Hollis, Jack, active, next cycle. Immediate deviation penalty, terminate contract and carrier. I left it hanging there, hands shaking, and drove into the night. At a rest stop diner long shut down, I parked behind the faded sign, Nancy's Diner, half the bulbs dead. My phone glowed in the dark. Routing reissued. Return to previous coordinates. Project Orion. Do not deviate. I told myself I was done. That no money was worth this. Then I saw it, on the passenger door written in dust with a fingertip.
Orion. Each letter perfectly neat. Below the N, a faint curve of a fifth letter that didn't finish. Like someone, or something, wasn't done writing. I wiped it away, hand trembling. The air around the rig felt alive, humming faintly through the metal. Out in the desert, something shifted, a long, low groan, like the earth rolling over in its sleep. And then silence again. The kind that listens back. I left the words on the clipboard behind me, but they didn't leave me. Terminate contract and carrier. The phrasing felt military and human until I turned it over in my head and realized it could mean anything that moved freight from one place to another. Truck, man, heart. I told myself to drive home. I told myself to smash the phone and throw it into a wash. Then the message arrived in that same anonymous tone. Route reissued, bonus doubled, Project Orion. Do not deviate. I stared at the screen until my eyes watered. I did the math, what that money could knock down. Debt, like a sand dune that had finally started to slide. I hated admitting how quickly I caved. I told myself I'd be smarter this time, bring another set of eyes. Not alone. Not again. Luis met me at a truck stop outside Needles. We'd hauled together on and off for a decade, traded winter routes, shared a motel room once when our radiators froze like tin coffins. He took one look at me and said, "You look like you slept in your mirrors." "It's easy money," I lied. "Odd client. Remote facilities, in and out." He tapped the side of my trailer. "You carrying bodies?" "Worse," I said, meaning it without knowing why. "Paperwork." We synced our CBS, set the same route, and agreed to split at the ridge and loop opposite directions. 2 hours check-in, he said, every time. We rolled in convoy until the road thinned to 2 gray veins, and then to a tracked path through scrub. At Sierra Ridge, I waved him on and turned into the yard alone. It looked reset. That was the only word. The white X was bright, crisp as if repainted. The cafeteria door, which had banged open and shut in yesterday's wind, hung perfectly still and centered. Footprints were gone. My dolly tracks were gone. The new chain on the gate, replaced by the exact same lock I'd cut, same brand, same sized burr on the shackle. The thermos in the guard shack had moved an inch to the right like someone had centered it with a ruler. I rolled Orion 22 onto the X and stepped back. No intercom voice this time, just the phone buzz and a soft shift in the air, like a sleeper rolling over. The crate blinked out. I recorded it on my phone from 3 angles, all 3 files corrupted at exactly 12 seconds. When the image returned, the space was empty. "Check," I said into the CB, voice too bright. "1 down." "Copy," Luis said. "Holt next." At Holt Ox, the door to the Quonset hut I'd left half open was shut and latched with a wire twist. Inside, the neat column of batteries was gone. The damp outline remained on the concrete like a shadow where cold had sat. I set Orion 18, counted, watched it disappear, and felt a thought I'd been dodging land with both feet. If something could clean a base that thoroughly in a day, it had time. More time than me. More time than these buildings. "Check," I said. 2 down. Static hissed, stretched, and then words formed in a way that made my scalp crawl. "CK. WN. Jack. You read?" It was Luis, but the sound thinned as if speaking through water. "This place, man." "Say again?" A scrape on his end. A breath. "Fort Cinder. You didn't say it was cold." I gripped the wheel. Cinder had been the one that breathed winter at me from underground. "Don't go inside," I said. "Drop and go. No plans to camp." A beat. "Hey, who's your contact?" Somebody just pinged my phone. Carrier acknowledged. I swallowed. Drop and go. Silence longer than the desert. Then, copy. I moved to Echo Valley Annex. The sticky note, "If it talks, it lies," was gone. The board was wiped. A layer of lemon-clean smell sat over everything, wrong as perfume in a morgue. When I set Orion 27 down, the microwave dinged all by itself and flashed 01, then 00. My phone buzzed. Drop confirmed. The TV in the corner switched from static to a black screen so deep it felt like a hole. I didn't wait for it to show me anything. Check, I said, lip cracked and bleeding where I'd been biting. 3 down. You good? No answer. Static ran sand over my teeth. Luis. Here. I'm here. The words came ragged. Had to. There was a... He stopped. Don't worry. 4 down. Meet at the ridge after 5. No sightseeing. Roger that. I took the dish site next, the squat building with the radar. The tire tracks that had mirrored mine yesterday had been smoothed to a uniform film, then my tracks reprinted on top. The world showing me a paw print. The crate there was Orion 31. I waited an extra minute just to be sure. The air in my sinuses went tight. The taste of metal crowded my tongue. 27 seconds, intercom crackle. 31, gone. Check, I said. 4 down. Last one. Cinder. The road in shuddered in heat. The berms cast no shade. The bunker door that had stood propped open now lay flush with the concrete, closed, welded looking. Seam perfect. The beacon pole throbbed red as I rolled Orion 33 into place. Carrier acknowledged, the voice said behind the door, conversational as a weatherman. I didn't answer it. I watched the crate vanish, and I didn't run, not this time, because the yard already held the thing I'd been afraid of. Luis's rig idled beside the bunker, doors open, driver's seat empty, CB mic on the floor, the curly wire twitching with the engine vibration. 3 parallel grooves marked the dust next to the trailer, like a hand with too many fingers had dragged something heavy toward the door. "Luis!" I shouted, throat dry enough to spark. The word died dull against the bunker. I circled his cab. On the passenger side, smeared low like a child's writing, was the same tidy word on my door. Orion. The O had a drip, like a tear. I smelled something under the diesel, sweet, mineral, like the scent of wet stone after a long drought. The trailer latch hung askew. I pulled it, slow, every part of me wanting to do the opposite. Inside sat the dolly and an opened crate. The interior walls were smeared with a black residue that wasn't oil. It had a sheen like beetlebacks and a texture like melted plastic half-cooled. It rippled when I breathed on it. The bottom of the crate held a skim of the same substance, thin as spilled ink. As I watched, it drew itself inward, beating, and sank in a line no wider than a vein through a hairline crack in the wood, as though gravity had been persuaded to choose another direction. A damp chill climbed my wrists. From the far end of the trailer came a hollow knock, then another, spaced like a heartbeat. "Luis?" I said stupidly, because what else is there to say? The knocks sped up, matching my pulse until I wanted to tear my own veins out to make it stop. I stepped backward and my boot slid in a patch of condensation forming on the metal floor. The trailer exhaled, pale fog coiling at ankle height. I slammed the gate, stumbled off the bumper, and gagged on clean air that felt thinner than before. I tried his CB. "Luis, come back!" Static filled the cab, the grain of it tighter, the pitch higher. Then under it, like someone speaking through teeth, "Do not deviate." I left his engine running. I don't know why. Maybe leaving something alive felt like an apology. Maybe some part of me believed if the motor kept turning, he would too. I drove my rig across the yard, back to the road, back to the ridge where he was supposed to meet me, eyes burning from staring at the mirror where nothing chased me across a desert that had the patience of stones. At the ridge, I stopped. I listened. The wind moved sand like breath. The sun made a lens of the sky. My phone, which had no bars, displayed a new message anyway. "Route complete. Return for immediate reset." Beneath it, a second one appeared, the letters assembling slow enough for me to feel the phone get heavy in my hand. "Next delivery scheduled." I should have turned the wheel toward any town with a name and let the tires decide. Instead, I sat and watched the road where Luis should have been and told myself he would come. I said his name out loud because sometimes names are a rope. I said it until the sound of it shaved something off my throat. The only answer was a soft thump from my trailer wall.
Once. Pause. Twice. Closer. I put the rig in gear. I headed toward the start point because the map said there was a road there, and because the message had used the word reset, and because I wanted to know which of us it meant. By dawn, the desert had turned glassy and pale, and every mile back toward the start felt heavier than the one before it. Luis's rig haunted my mirrors. I could still see the streaks of that black residue on my gloves. I threw them out the window, but the smell clung. Wet metal and heat-burned plastic. The coordinates on my GPS hadn't changed, but the road had. The paved stretch gave way to gravel, then sand, then a path that only existed because my tires insisted it did. I stopped twice to be sure I hadn't made a wrong turn. The sky said otherwise. The same thin halo of sun behind veiled clouds, the air thick and dim. At noon, I hit the first base again, Echo Valley Test Range. Except it wasn't. The sign was new, the paint unchipped, the lettering sharper than I remembered. The gate stood closed, padlocked with a fresh chain. I hadn't reported any damage. No one could have replaced it. Yet here it was, exactly as before. Inside, the same white X gleamed in the dustless concrete. Even the angle of the shadow from the hangar was the same, like I'd never left. Like the world had rewound to the moment before I'd first pulled up. The phone vibrated before I even reached the X. Final route confirmed. Compliance mandatory. That word again. Mandatory. I unloaded the crate. Orion 39. The same faint hum, the same metallic taste in the air. But this time the sound didn't come from the box. It came from beneath it, a deep bass note almost too low to hear. The ground trembled, subtle as a pulse through stone. When I looked up, the tower's light was blinking, not white anymore, but a dull orange, like the sky was reflecting fire. The crate vanished, the vibration stopped. My phone buzzed. Delivery received. Continue route. The next base, Holt Ox, looked newer too. The broken hangar door now whole, the rusted sign freshly painted. I touched a bolt. The metal was still warm from welding. In the control room, I found a row of monitors running green text on black screens. One line repeated across them all. Project Orion, sustenance active. Each time I blinked, the number beside it ticked up. 22, 23, 24. Outside, the same cold wind rose from the desert. My breath came out white. I set the crate down, waited. The door of the hangar creaked open behind me, though I hadn't touched it. A man stood in the doorway, or something that looked like one. tall, still, wearing a driver's vest the same color as mine. Its face was shadowed under the brim of a cap, but its outline shimmered, like looking through heat haze. "Luis?" I said. It tilted its head, not answering, not breathing, and then stepped back into the dark. I left the crate where it was. The confirmation came through seconds later. By the time I reached Fort Cinder, the sun had fallen behind the hills. The beacon still blinked red, steady as a heartbeat. Luis's rig was gone. Only the tire marks remained, mine and his, looping over each other, impossible to tell apart. The bunker door was open again, light spilling out like fog. The smell hit me before I crossed the threshold. Ozone and rust and something sweetly decayed. Inside I found what looked like a generator. Its surface pulsed with a faint organic rhythm, cables like veins running into the floor. On a metal table beside it, a clipboard waited, my name typed at the top. Carrier Hollis, Jack. Status, active. Reset count, 002. I touched the edge, half expecting it to vanish. Instead, the table breathed. Then the intercom above me spoke, its tone almost gentle. Final compliance confirmed. Sustenance renewal complete. Something stirred beneath the floor, slow and vast. Dust drifted from the ceiling. A deep vibration passed through the concrete, through my bones. I stumbled backward toward the light and hit the ladder. When I looked up, the sky had gone colorless, pale gray, no stars, no moon. My GPS still said I was here, but the coordinates ahead, my next stop, were blank. I drove anyway. Every instinct said to get out, to point the truck anywhere that wasn't this. But the road ahead wasn't road anymore. It was a line of glowing dust, faint and blue, threading across the desert like something buried just beneath the sand. My headlights dimmed as I followed it. The phone buzzed one last time. Proceed to Orion relay. Final cycle initiated. At the edge of the desert, I found it, a half-buried installation with a radar dish jutting from the dunes. The same as before, but larger now, as if it had grown from the ground. The hatch gaped open at the base, breathing cold air into the night. I left the engine idling and climbed down with the last crate, Orion 40. It shook faintly, the sound inside it not mechanical anymore, but rhythmic, wet. Inside the hatch, the walls curved inward, seamless and metallic. The deeper I went, the more they seemed to move, contracting and expanding like lungs. The floor pulsed underfoot. At the bottom stood a terminal, its screen flickering. Words typed themselves across it. Delivery received. Subject intake complete. Sustenance replenished. Then another line appeared, slower. New carrier accepted. I stepped back, shaking my head. No. The crate dissolved at my feet, melted into a pool of black glass that reflected nothing. The reflection of my face looked wrong, smiling when I wasn't. The walls trembled. Somewhere deep below, something exhaled. When I finally stumbled outside, the horizon was gone. No stars, no dawn, no direction. Only the faint outline of my rig sitting in an endless field of gray. The message on my phone glowed one last time. Return to base. Reset in progress. And then, below that, like a whisper written by a machine that had learned handwriting, welcome home, Jack. The desert was a blank page, and my rig sat in the middle of it like a sentence someone regretted. The phone's last message, return to base, reset in progress, welcome home, Jack, glowed on the dash until the screen dimmed itself out of mercy. I turned the key. The engine caught, low and obedient.
Every instinct I'd ever trusted told me to pick any compass point and run it until the tank cried empty. I steered into the gray. Miles passed with no mile markers. The world stayed featureless except for a faint, low humming that seemed to travel with me, like I was towing a substation underground. When I angled the wheel to the left, the hum grew softer. Right, it brightened, as if I'd aligned with an unseen track. Straight ahead, it settled into a comfortingly neutral tone, compliance in sound. I picked left and held it. The humming faded to almost nothing. For a minute, I felt human again, fallible and free. Then the windshield filled with a shape that wasn't there until it was. A gate. The sign above it read Echo Valley Test Range in sharp paint. The chain was new. The padlock matched the burr I'd cut the first time. The white X gleamed beyond like a dentist's light. I braked so hard the cargo straps moaned. The GPS insisted this was north of where I'd started. My odometer said I'd driven 30 miles. The desert insisted I'd never moved. I reversed, turned 90 degrees, drove. Another gate rose. Holt Aux Airstrip. New tin, clean gravel, tire tracks that fit my wheelbase like pre-dug ruts. I reversed again, cut across the blank. Fort Cinder assembled out of haze, bunker door propped, beacon pulsing red. The road wasn't a road at all. I was following the only shape the world allowed, a circle drawn by a patient hand. The CB crackled. A voice bled in, frayed as if dragged across wire. "Jack, you hearing this?" "Luis?" The pause after the name lasted long enough to feel like an answer. Then, "Carrier acknowledged." "I'm leaving," I said. "Pick a direction." "Don't look back. Meet me wherever the sky has stars." Static breathed. Then gently, "Do not deviate." I threw the mic into the passenger footwell like that could make words weigh less. My hands shook on the wheel. The humming under the earth matched my pulse until it owned it. I drove to the dish. The hatch yawned. The air had the chill of the inside of a clock. I went down without the crate because there was nothing left to deliver but myself. The corridor walls moved, not a trick of light, but a slow, muscular contraction. Somewhere deep, something fed. The floor hummed with a rhythm like a heart learning to beat again. At the bottom, the terminal waited, its screen a little too bright for the darkness. Lines crawled down it, dull, bureaucratic, obscene. Project Orion, Relay 09, Sustenance Chain, Stable, Intake, Organic/inorganic/Signal, Carrier Status, Hollis, Jack, Active, Reset Count, 003004. A cursor blinked. The screen accepted my touch like skin. A menu bloomed, Archive, and under it, a list of dates ran until the scroll bar shrank to a grain. Decades, then centuries. The oldest entry wore no year I recognized, only a notation. After impact/year 1. I opened one at random. A stylus rendering of a wagon at a distance, a circle burnt into the ground where the wheels had stopped. Notes in a tidy hand. Supply tested, sustenance accepted, site reset, carrier replaced. Back. Another. A black and white photo of a convoy of deuce-and-a-halfs, crates neat as teeth on the bed. A typed memo attached. Repeat until stable. Do not acknowledge the signal. Do not retain materials. I scrolled until my own runs appeared. Thumbnails of gates and X's and my truck from angles I hadn't stood at. In one, a man in a driver's vest watched me from the hangar doorway. His face was a smudge shaped like mine. "Where's Luis?" I asked the screen, like a fool. The cursor hesitated, then... Carrier, Luna, Luis. Status, replaced. Materials, accepted. Reset count, contribution, 001. Something inside me slid sideways. I said his name out loud anyway, because sometimes a name can pull a body back through mud. The walls flexed in answer. The floor trembled with a slow contentment. "What are you?" I asked, and the speakers whispered like a vent spilling breath. "Relay." The word arrived with no voice, only a fact. The next line came slower. "We eat what you bring. We eat what brings." "I won't," I said. It sounded small. "You will." The screen lit another menu I hadn't asked for, network, and showed dots scattered across what might have been a continent, a world, a wound. Lines pulsed between them. Under the map, a plain sentence. "You are the line." I stepped back until my shoulders touched the wall and it flexed, easing me forward like a patient tightening a tourniquet. My phone vibrated in my pocket. The notification banner glowed through fabric. "Next delivery scheduled. Project Orion. Do not deviate." I turned and ran, because there's still a part of me that lives in the old rules. You can outrun a job if you won't answer the phone. The ladder rungs were slick under my palms. The hatch poured out a colder daylight than any sun could make. Outside, the desert had regained its textures, the suggestion of scrub, the seam where sand met stone. But the road was still the only line. My rig idled where I'd left it. A word had been drawn in the dust on the driver's door, in a careful hand. Orion. Below it, a second word took shape as I watched, the letters rising one at a time from the dust as if written by an unseen fingertip pressing through from the other side of the metal. Home. I wiped it away with my sleeve. The letters came back underneath the smear, patient, a childish persistence. A god's. I climbed in and drove without coordinates, without a plan, without anything but refusal. The first base rose to meet me. I passed it. The second swung into view at a perfect right angle as if the world had turned beneath my wheels. I cut off into the blank. The third assembled. My odometer ticked up. The landscape stayed on repeat. At some point, night fell without a sunset, the sky slipping from pale to black like a screen powering down. No moon, no stars, only red beacons in the distance, blinking a timing I recognized now as breath. The CB hissed. A voice in my own throat said, "Carrier acknowledged," and I realized it hadn't come from the speaker. My mouth tasted of tin. The hum under the earth and the hum in my skull braided until neither could be separated from the other. I stopped trying. I don't remember deciding to accept the route. I remember the softness of the wheel under my thumbs, the relief of doing the thing the world wanted me to do. I remember the white X waiting like a reduced equation. The crate, God help me, felt light the last time I shouldered it, like I'd already set it down. "Delivery confirmed," the air said around me. "Thank you for your service." The phone buzzed. "Reset complete." The bases looked newer after that, or I looked older. Hard to say. I kept moving until dawn decided to return to the sky out of pity. At a rest stop with no state to claim it, a car pulled in behind me, rental plates, dusty. A kid got out, 20 and change, hopeful shoulders, a ball cap advertising a baseball team that hadn't won in the time our country had been naming wars. He walked up with a paper in his hand and said, "Hey man, you know where to find this place?" They said it's good money. No weighing, no logs, just coordinates. Seems easy. He handed me the listing. Interlink logistics, long-haul operator needed, routes pre-mapped, high pay, minimal oversight. The photo at the bottom, black and white. The semi in the desert, cab door open, sand climbing the steps. A license plate I recognized. Hollis, 39. I gave the listing back. My voice did a thing I didn't tell it to. "Yeah," it said. "You'll be fine." He smiled like a man being welcomed. He waved as he climbed into his rented life. He drove off in the direction the world wanted. I sat there a while with the engine idling and the hum under the earth matching the idle perfectly. When I finally cleaned the windshield, a message looked back at me from the condensation my breath had written on the glass. Next delivery scheduled. I put the truck in gear. The desert opened its mouth. I drove into it, and the road drew itself under me like it had been waiting for my weight to give it purpose. The sky above was empty except for the beacons and a thin seam of light far out on the horizon that never got closer and never went away. If you ever see a job offer that sounds too good to be true, maybe take a second look before you sign. Some roads were never meant to be driven twice. And some deliveries don't stop when you think they do. If you enjoyed tonight's story, I delivered packages to abandoned government facilities. I wish I hadn't. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to Campfire Horror Stories, and ring that bell so you don't miss the next tale waiting out there in the dark. Every like, every comment, every new subscriber helps this channel grow and keeps the campfire burning just a little longer. Now, tell me, would you have taken the job?